What if I told you that every INFJ, INFP, INTJ, and INTP is living a lie? That you're all walking around spiritually dormant, pretending to be awake while actually sleepwalking through life? Carl Jung discovered something terrifying about rare personality types that will make you question everything you think you know about yourself. He called it the law of spiritual necessity, and it demands that you either burn the boats or remain forever asleep. Before we dive into Jung's most controversial insight about rare types, smash that subscribe button and hit the like, because what I'm about to reveal will either wake you up completely or make you realize you've been living in spiritual poverty your entire life. This isn't motivational fluff. This is psychological surgery. Here's what Jung observed that nobody wants to admit. Most INFJs, INFPs, INTJs, and INTPs are spiritual cowards. You talk about depth, you pride yourselves on being different, and you claim to see what others can't see. But when it comes to actually living according to your deepest truth, you chicken out. You build elaborate safety nets, backup plans, and comfortable compromises that keep you spiritually mediocre. Jung said something that will cut you to the bone. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But here's the part he didn't say out loud. Becoming who you truly are requires you to burn every boat that could take you back to who you were. And most rare types are too terrified to light the match. You see, we rare types have this curse. We can see the life we're supposed to live. We can feel it calling to us. That book you're supposed to write, that business you're supposed to start, that relationship you're supposed to end, that city you're supposed to move to, that version of yourself you're supposed to become. You can see it so clearly it hurts. But instead of moving toward it, you do something worse than ignoring it. You make it a fantasy. You turn your calling into a beautiful daydream that you visit when reality gets boring. You tell yourself, someday, and when the time is right, and when I have more money, and when I'm more prepared. But Jung would say you're lying to yourself. You're using your intuition not as a guide for action, but an escape from action. And here's where it gets really twisted. Because you can see the life you're supposed to live, you think that seeing it is enough. You think that having the vision makes you special. You think that understanding your purpose intellectually is the same as living it. But Jung would laugh at this delusion. He'd say you're like someone who stares at a map of paradise while sitting in hell. The burn the boats principle comes from ancient military strategy. When Cortez landed in Mexico, he ordered his men to burn their ships so they couldn't retreat. They had to conquer or die. There was no plan B. And Jung observed that spiritual awakening requires the same ruthless commitment. You have to burn the boats that could take you back to your old life. But here's what's terrifying for us rare types. We're addicted to our safety nets. We're addicted to keeping our options open. We're addicted to the illusion that we can have both, the comfortable, predictable life and the authentic, meaningful life. We want to be spiritual warriors while keeping our suburban armor on. You know what Jung called this? Spiritual masturbation. You're getting off on the idea of transformation without actually transforming. You're climaxing on potential while never actualizing. You read about individuation. You understand shadow work. You can quote every psychology book ever written, but you're still living the same safe, small life you were living 5 years ago. And the worst part? You've convinced yourself that thinking about change is change, that planning for authenticity is authenticity, that preparing for your real life is your real life. But Jung would say you're just a spiritual tourist taking pictures of enlightenment without actually visiting. Here's what burning the boats actually looks like for rare types. It's the INFJ who quits the corporate job without having another one lined up because they know they're dying inside. It's the INFP who moves across the country to pursue their art, even though everyone thinks they're crazy. It's the INTJ who starts the business they've been planning for 10 years instead of planning for 10 more. It's the INTP who finally shares their revolutionary ideas with the world instead of perfecting them in isolation forever. But you're probably thinking, that's reckless. That's irresponsible. What about security? What about stability? And Jung would say, what about your soul? Because here's what he understood that most people don't. For rare types, security is the enemy of authenticity. Stability is the enemy of growth. Comfort is the enemy of consciousness. You see, most people need security to feel safe enough to grow. But rare types are different. We need insecurity to grow. We need the pressure of having no choice but to become who we're supposed to be. We need to be backed into a corner where our only option is authenticity. Jung observed that rare types have what he called spiritual metabolism. We literally cannot digest a life that doesn't align with our deepest truth. It makes us sick, it makes us depressed, it makes us anxious, it makes us feel like we're suffocating. But instead of recognizing this as our soul demanding authenticity, we medicate the symptoms and keep living the lie. And here's the really sick part. We've turned our spiritual sensitivity into an excuse for spiritual cowardice. I'm too sensitive for the real world. I need more time to prepare. I'm not ready yet. I need to heal first. I need to understand myself better. All of these are just sophisticated ways of saying I'm too scared to burn the boats. But Jung knew something about rare types that we've forgotten. We're not fragile flowers that need protection from the world. We're spiritual warriors that need challenges to awaken our power. We're not meant to be comfortable. We're meant to be conscious. We're not meant to be safe. We're meant to be authentic. The boats you need to burn aren't just external, they're internal. You need to burn the boat of perfectionism that keeps you from starting. You need to burn the boat of people-pleasing that keeps you from being real. You need to burn the boat of overthinking that keeps you from acting. You need to burn the boat of waiting for permission that keeps you from claiming your power. And here's what happens when you finally burn the boats. You discover that everything you thought you needed for security was actually keeping you prisoner. You discover that your greatest fear, having no way back, becomes your greatest freedom. You discover that the life you were afraid to lose wasn't worth living anyway. Jung said, your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. But he left out the most important part. Awakening isn't a gentle process. It's violent. It requires you to kill who you were to birth who you're becoming. And most rare types are too attached to their caterpillar identity to allow the butterfly transformation. You want to know the real tragedy? Most INFJs, INFPs, INTJs, and INTPs will die with their music still inside them. They'll die having never written the book, never started the business, never had the relationship, never lived in the place, never became the person they could see so clearly. They'll die spiritually dormant, having spent their entire lives preparing for a life they never lived. But it doesn't have to be you. You can choose to burn the boats today. You can choose to stop making your calling a fantasy and start making it your reality. You can choose to stop being a spiritual tourist and start being a spiritual resident. The question Jung would ask you is simple. What boats are you keeping that prevent you from becoming who you truly are? Because until you burn them, you remain spiritually dormant no matter how much you understand about psychology, no matter how deep you think you are, no matter how special you believe yourself to be. The boats are burning whether you light them or not. Time is burning them. Age is burning them. Regret is burning them. The only question is whether you'll burn them intentionally and use the fire to forge your authentic life, or whether you'll let them burn accidentally and spend your remaining years warming yourself by the flames of what could have been. Jung's hidden law is brutal but liberating. Burn the boats or stay spiritually dormant. There is no middle ground. There is no compromise. There is no having it both ways. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to keep playing it safe while your soul suffocates? Or are you finally ready to burn the boats and discover who you really are when there's no way back to who you were? Drop a comment below and tell me what boat you're ready to burn. And if you want more content that will challenge you to stop living a spiritually mediocre life, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because the world doesn't need more comfortable rare types. The world needs rare types who are brave enough to burn the boats and become who they were born to be. The match is in your hand. The question is, are you brave enough to strike it?